Hey everybody, it's Professor Snart checking in probably one last time here, or close to one last, as we wrap up our course. It is Wednesday, June 26th when I'm recording this, and I figured I'd kind of close us out here with actual video of me rather than just our course, since most of the things we've kind of looked at in previous video announcements, so it makes sense to sort of wrap things up. I do want to make reference, though, to a couple things that I have to look at. Our final due date's coming up, so finishing up everything in Unit 5 by Thursday, June 27th. Technically, the term doesn't end until, I think, like sort of awkwardly, Monday, July 1st. But I have our final due date here, just to give us a little buffer if there are technical problems or a document doesn't display correctly or just little things like that. So it's always nice to have that little buffer in there. But we do have this as our final due date, so again, I'm looking for things to be in on time. If there's tech issues, we can follow up, but that really is our final due date. And so you can probably, hopefully feel like things are really, finishing up as far as we finalized professional emails, you've sent them out. We're hopefully going to get some replies. I know we can't totally control that, and sometimes we'll get like a reply that's just an auto-generated thing, like, oh, we've received your email, we'll get back to you. Sometimes we get nothing. Sometimes we'll get something, but it'll be like a week and a half later, so not really part of our course anymore. And the ideal, right, is the actual person reaches back out to us and answers whatever questions or clarifies things or whatever we had sort of tasked our audience, our person that we're sending the email to do. So you'll notice that in our course menu, there's a new item right at the top, right below the announcements area, where you can jump in and let us know what you hear back. And I'm hoping that everyone will do this, expecting that everyone will do this, even if you don't hear back or haven't heard back. Because one of the things that we can think about is, again, in the rhetorical situation that we've caused by sending our email, we're now interested in getting something back from the person or the thing that was our audience. But if that company or organization or individual doesn't respond at all, or maybe responds with a sort of auto-generated thing, does that change our perception of that person, organization, company, or whatever it happens to be? Do we have maybe a slightly diminished view of that company because they're not responsive to all the work, right, we've put into making a fairly professional email, right? We're not just like randomly emailing some crazy thing that we're sending out or anything like that. We've like invested in making this a professional moment for engaging with that, again, organization or company. And so maybe it doesn't really bug you if they don't get back, but even if you don't hear back, we want to kind of reflect on how our perceptions change, or even just change a little bit, or don't maybe, based on this interaction. So make sure you jump into that area in our course. There's a slide deck built out where you can just find your own slide space, or add a blank slide and just kind of report back. If you heard something, great. If you got an auto-generated thing, great. If you heard nothing, that's still okay, but you can, again, spend some time on reflecting how or if that changes your perception of the company or the organization or whatever person, entity you ended up emailing. So Unit 5 also then has us doing our final kind of reflection project, right? Building out, or connecting, I should say, the work that you've done for the class from the very beginning all the way up to this assignment itself even, to the actual course objectives. So I've kind of walked through that already, so I won't revisit it. One of the main things that we're doing in that exercise, though, that activity, isn't just connecting work to the objectives, which is important to do, but it's also you making another sophisticated rhetorical choice about like what format would be best for doing that project, for providing that information, for doing those explanations in this rhetorical situation where you are the author, I the audience, and then you have to figure out like what thing am I going to produce to best make my argument or to showcase how your work and the course objectives are connected. So even this very final thing is yet another rhetorical situation where you have to make choices, right? And that's really the thing that I want to leave you with, like the most transferable, and I honestly think the most powerful skill that you can leave this course with. It's not really like how do you write a professional email. I think that's actually valuable, but even though that's kind of what we did as our main focus, the real point to take away is that in doing that activity, you're invited to become a more sophisticated rhetorician, a more sophisticated communicator, because you're aware of you as the communicator, the genre or the thing that you're working in, whether it's a professional email or you build a website or a slide deck or you write an essay or whatever the thing is, right? You're making conscious choices about that based on the audience or the place that that's going, because you want to have an impact or have an effect, right? You want an answer from your professional email. You want to get a good grade, right? All of those things figure into the rhetorical situation. And I have to say that I've been doing this, like the fine print project, for a while now, and it never ceases to amaze me. And this time around is no different. Just how diverse the range of things that people find to write about, whether it's the fine print on like an event ticket or an insurance policy or some sort of like loan or contractual agreement or a lease. Or like a shopping experience kind of thing, your interaction with a website or web service. The range is really amazing. And as you probably discovered maybe with your own fine print, but also as you were exposed to a few other people's, some of the stuff in that fine print is like, it is crazy, right? The companies just get away with anything. It's amazing that we as consumers have any power at all. I think maybe we don't actually. And so us writing back to that, no matter what fine print you found or the questions that you asked, just try to like engage with that stuff, is a real, I hope you feel a little bit empowered, right? And not just this passive consumer who's having all this fine print dictated to them, or the loan or the usage agreements just like, this is how it's going to be and you better suck it up because you have no say in it. Well, hopefully we do have some say, and hopefully you're feeling a little bit of that as you send your email, but also hopefully as you get a response and clarification. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean that we stop shopping, using a particular interface, or we don't go to concerts or sporting events anymore, but we're just a little bit more aware, and I think even that is important. But again, the big takeaway, and as I've seen students like work through some of the feedback, especially for the professional email. Again, this really short document, it's not like we're trying to edit and make choices about a 30-page research paper, but this short and really more kind of real-world writing format, people are making or asking really good questions, especially once they've got some feedback from me, from peers, about like, should I do this and what effect will that have? Or what if I did this? What if I include an example? What if I don't include an example? If I do, it makes it stronger. If I don't, it makes the email shorter and more succinct. So there's not always like a right answer or some like perfect scenario where I can just tell you, always do it this way, don't do it that way, kind of a thing. It's always a matter of you as the author, as the rhetorical composer of these things, to make those decisions, but not just kind of like random, like, oh, well, I'll do it this time, like, hopefully this will work. You're making those decisions based on becoming a more sophisticated rhetorician, right? You're making these tactical choices based on your awareness of your audience and how they're going to respond and what they might respond positively to versus negatively, making choices about tone. You don't want to be too informal, which comes off as odd. You don't want to be too formal, which sounds just as odd, so you're always trying to find that middle ground. So all of those choices you make are really what this class is all about, and really the transferable skill that I think is going to be most valuable in your personal life, your professional life, your academic life as that continues, right? Becoming like a really strategic rhetorician is a fancy way of saying exactly what we're trying to do in this class. So it's really not about just the email that we wrote, but that's where it all kind of happens for us. So yeah, hopefully, even though you're right kind of in the weeds of it all right now, hopefully what you can see that you're taking away is that you are now a more sophisticated rhetorician than when you entered the class, even though these things are, especially in a 5-week course, we really just like make marginal improvements. So it's not like all of a sudden you are 1,000 times better. If you feel that way, great. But it's always just this sort of steady sort of a thing. Keeping in mind, though, that these are activities or strategies and skills and approaches that we practice really all the time, even if we're not consciously aware of it. So even if you don't take like a 3rd English composition class in your academic career at some point, it's not like you're not always doing these exact skills. So again, it's really important for me that you understand that A, this has been about more than just like learning to write an email. Hopefully that's come through. And B, that the skills that you're learning are transferable not just to a next English composition class, or even to like a next English class, but across the board as far as your academic coursework, and again in your personal and professional life as well. So hopefully it's like meaningful beyond just doing the stuff you have to do to get a grade for the class. So I'm going to leave it there. Especially as we wrap things up, be really careful to, again, read directions carefully, follow the steps and the sort of screenshot walkthroughs that are provided when it comes to, sharing documents correctly. And obviously, if you have any questions as we wrap things up in Unit 5, be sure to reach out to me. I will start compiling final grades basically now as people start to turn in final things. So again, look across your whole collection of grades for the term and make sure there's not something missing, or maybe I sent you a note to that a document wasn't showing up, so you need to change the doc sharing settings or like whatever. Make sure there's no sort of hiccups along the road. And within the next few days, starting here Wednesday and then especially after Thursday, you can pop back into Blackboard and start looking for your final grade for the class. So again, questions, concerns, by all means reach out to me. Hopefully you found it to be certainly a fast class, but also one that has you doing useful things. I'm really conscious of that, not just churning out an essay because you're in an English class and that's what you have to do. We haven't really done that, right? We've done something that hopefully has a little more real-world application for you, all right? So take care. Really sort of like focus in as we wrap things up these last couple of days. And again, pop back into Blackboard sometime, by the weekend coming up or even before. And if you're finishing things up, you'll probably see your final grade in there sooner rather than later. All right? Take care.